Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and call this last work session to order of the day. We are noticed today from 2:10 to 3:10 p.m. We are going to be discussing the Performing Arts Center, or the PAC, or APCA, if you look at the if you look at the budget from our prior work session. And then I'll just note too, we've had some technical difficulties, so I know we're starting a few minutes late. I would ask members' indulgence that maybe we go to 3:15, but I know it's been a late afternoon. So we'll start with introductions, and I'll ask our guests to introduce themselves and give a presentation. So go ahead, Member Baldwin Day.
Erin Baldwin Day.
Keith McCormick.
Dara Silvers. Anna Brawley.
Felix Rivera.
On the phone, Mr. Johnson.
I'm here.
Any other members on the phone? Okay, we're also joined with legislative services staff. We don't have assembly council at the moment, some members of the administration and members of the public. So I am going to turn it to Ms. Costello to do a presentation. And before that, if you can also maybe just give brief introductions of folks in the room. So go ahead and make sure to turn on the mic. You just have one on at a time, and then when the button is green, you can speak into it. Thanks.
Okay, there we go. Thank you so much. My name's Cody Costello. I'm the president and chief operating officer of Alaska Center for the Performing Arts, Inc. That's the nonprofit management company that operates the municipality's facility, also known as the same name, but also as the PAC. Today we have a number of folks with us, and so I'm going to introduce, we have 6 board members with us, Leah Boltz, Dick Roston, Mickey Becker, Bill Maynor, and next to me I have Galen Pospisil and Mark Feynman. Did I miss anyone? With staff and resident company representatives, we have Alex Huseman, who is our communications manager, Mary Grace McManus, our community engagement manager, Wendy Oden and Shalyn Clark, directors of event management and production. We have John Fraser, director of ticketing, Curtis Waller, programming and contracts manager, and we have Aaron Keeling, audience services director, and a representative with the symphony is Colin Middleton. So thank you all for being here. So I'll just go ahead and get started. Okay. Well, I just want to share a little background on me. I have been president and chief operating officer at the Performing Arts Center 5 weeks before COVID was my first day. So it's been an exciting journey. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today. I'm sorry we don't have the presentation up, but you can follow along. I'll do a beep or something to let you know when I'm switching slides. We're grateful to share time with you as your nonprofit operator and partner. We steward and operate the Performing Arts Center and have done so since the facility opened. We understand the many pressures that the municipality and the assembly face right now. So I want to make sure to acknowledge that and to sincerely thank you and the administration for continued service and commitment on behalf of our entire community. So thank you so much. We echo the need to make a multi-year plan, and that's part of what we're here to talk about today. And thank you to Bill and the mayor's office for all the work that we're doing to develop a new way forward. And that's part of what we'll kind of give an overview today to share more information. So with that in mind, the information that we want to share today is really about setting the stage, not to use a theater term, but to develop a shared plan to ensure a healthy and sustainable future for both the Performing Arts Center, known as the PAC, and our nonprofit organization, ACPA, and that is entrusted with its care. So for over 35 years, our partnership has embodied what is possible when public vision and private commitment unite. The PAC, as you know, is owned by the municipality and operated by our nonprofit team. And it's more than a building. It's the heartbeat of our creative community and our city. We are home to 8 amazing resident companies, dozens of local and national partners, and we are a catalyst for cultural and economic activity downtown. So the PAC has delivered immense value, but after decades of service, the facility needs critical capital investment, and our management agreement and earned fee needs to be right-sized to reflect the scale and demands of the work. So together, I know we can ensure and secure the PAC's future as a vibrant, welcoming home for the arts. So moving on to the second slide, I want to talk about why the performing arts matters. We're a place and the center itself, we're a place where Anchorage comes together and it comes alive. It's where stories are told and voices are lifted. And we are a launching pad for youth, a platform for professionals, and a home for the creative spirit of Alaska. We help to fuel downtown vitality, drawing people into restaurants, hotels, and local shops. And we're Alaska's home for national Broadway tours and global artists to reach Alaskan audiences. Live performance inspires imagination, empathy, and lifelong engagement in our youth. And we are a civic gathering place where everyone is welcome and a home for people, all walks of life. And we'd love to say, come as you are. There's a really fun graphic that we developed a number of years ago. That's a red carpet with lots of different types of shoes on it. And that's really who we are. You can wear your extra toughs or your Jimmy Choos. Come on in. The building is operated by a nonprofit with an incredible team dedicated to serve this community. And we do so every day. We stretch every single dollar. Imagine what could be achieved with right-sized support and investment. The infrastructure is failing, but the mission has never been more vital. Community investment now could unlock broader access and stronger programming and future resilience. Moving on to our third slide. We want to talk about what's at stake and strategic risks and what would happen with a diminished performing arts center. Resident companies and our many users can't survive without an affordable, fully equipped facility. Further infrastructure degradation will eliminate our ability to host large-scale productions. We drive on average over $20 million in local economic impact every year. And when Broadway is active, it's even more. Its loss would ripple through restaurants, hotels, and jobs. With fewer performances, school matinees, and education opportunities, the impact would be felt by all of our young people as well. And without the Performing Arts Center, access to the arts will narrow. Each year of inaction, and where slide is up, thank you so much, Jasmine. Each year of inaction and delayed investment compounds the costs, and maybe not, deepening financial and operational instability. The Performing Arts Center is one of few nationally recognized facilities in the region, and its weakening will diminish our city's reputation. Emerging Alaskan artists and arts producers will start to look elsewhere for opportunities and depriving the state of its own voices. The PAC hosts shared moments that foster empathy and civic pride. Without it, isolation grows. And additionally, waiting to act means higher long-term capital investment and costs and lost philanthropic momentum that is already challenged with lack of investment. Moving to the next slide. Actually, one more. Okay, there we go. We also want to talk about why supporting the Performing Arts Center and ACPA is also support for an entire arts ecosystem. We're home to 8 resident companies that rely on the Performing Arts Center as their primary venue, and it's powered by our nonprofit services. These include the symphony, the opera, the concert association, theater, dance organizations, and arts presenters. Their success is inseparable from the health of this facility and organization. When operational support is stagnant, basic services are strained, and when capital investments delayed, technical systems, audience experience, and artist safety start to suffer. A deteriorating facility impacts every performance and rehearsal, from ticketing to the curtain call, and it heightens the risk of closure for smaller organizations that are already on very fragile margins. A strong PAC is a strong arts community, and investment is in dozens of cultural jobs, student programs, and thousands of local audience experiences. Every dollar keeps the lights on for everyone. So the bottom line is we can't ask our partners to thrive in a facility that if we're not willing to sustain it. And support for us is not optional. For the Performing Arts Center, it's essential to preserving our creative identity. So a little bit about our organization, if you can move to the next slide. We are much more than a building. We're a hub of people, purpose, and possibility. CenterTix, as our in-house ticketing for all PAC events and external clients throughout the city. We ticket a number of events both around the city in addition to everything in the Performing Arts Center. And we founded that part of our business in 2005. Patron services are provided through our front of house team, and that provides hospitality and accessibility support to ensure patrons have the best and safest experience. Our production services are done by expert production staff, and we engage skilled union crew and private production companies to support every production. Local hospitality service, currently through Crush, enhances the guest experience. And our weapons detection system, which was started with funding from a grant with the Department of Homeland Security, make sure that we have professional security as the need has grown exponentially, and it's critical to ensure safety for audiences, staff, and artists. Our Ushering in the Arts program is a beloved program in our community. It's a volunteer-based usher program that promotes access and service with over 380 volunteer community members. And our Broadway-bound AK program is an arts education initiative for Alaska's youth to ensure access to Broadway experiences across the state, and is supported by GCI in particular. Our Ruth Hart Endowment provides subsidies for usage of the Sidney Lawrence Theater for emerging artists and groups and other nonprofit users. And our latest example is Bradley Butcher's Comedy Up North series. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to see that, but he has started that this summer, and he's the latest recipient of support from this fund, and it's helping us to incubate his program and launch him as a new presenter in the community. Then we have the Canvas. This is a new space. It'll be a flexible space for community events, workshops, and residencies. That is in the old Kaladi space. So we're going to bring that online in October of this year. Other partnerships and relationships that we're proud of and in regular exchange with is our National Touring Broadway partnership with Nederlander, our 8 flagship and amazing resident company organizations. We work with a myriad of nonprofit organizations for usage of the building, and we pride ourselves on finding commercial opportunities to ensure that we can use those opportunities to charge full rates, and they help subsidize and support our nonprofit users. So as you can see, every element is interconnected, and when we're strong, our entire arts community is going to thrive. So rebuilding and reopening after COVID wasn't just about opening the doors again. It was and continues to be about restoring and building capacity, trust, and opening the doors wider than ever before. We can go to the next slide. So coming out of COVID, and our industry was faced with challenges unlike any other, as were we all. While many sectors could pivot to remote work or digital sales, live performance was shut down entirely, and reopening came with significant hurdles. The market had completely shifted. Audience behavior is entirely different, and we had to shift with them. That meant rethinking not just what we offered, but how and for whom. So we got to work. We created Broadway Alaska to bring national caliber programming to new audiences and make bold moves to reimagine the future of ACPA and the PAC as both a cultural engine and economic driver in a post-COVID world. While much of the world has fully moved on, our recovery is still in progress, and we're not done, and we see this as very much a growing forward. On the next slide, it's important to understand why Broadway. Nationally, touring Broadway is a powerhouse of economic activity. According to Broadway League's latest national touring study, it's important to understand that total economic contribution of touring Broadway across the country in 191 cities was $3.8 billion. This was pre-COVID, but the numbers are still similar, with 83% staying in those host communities. These numbers confirm what we already knew. Broadway is not just entertainment, it's a cultural and economic engine. But in Alaska, the reality comes with added complexity tenfold. Our market faces challenges that other cities don't. Unpredictable transportation costs that make every tour a major financial risk. A smaller and slower to return audience base that is still adjusting after COVID. And a facility that after decades of deferred investment is increasingly difficult and expensive to operate without adequate capital and operating support. So while Broadway Alaska launched with great success, drawing new and diverse audiences and reigniting excitement, It also placed new pressure on a stagnated management fee and aging infrastructure that was already strained. With rising security, utilities, emergency and short-term repairs, equipment and systems that are at end of life, and challenging market conditions, including those slower to return audiences, we made the difficult but necessary decision to pause Broadway for the 25-26 season in order to recalibrate. So during this time, we're focused on addressing critical facility needs, advocating for more sustainable support, and designing a long-term model that ensures our scale of operations, including Broadway, can thrive in Alaska, not just for one season, but for the next generation. It's also a chance to reshape our resident partnerships, ensuring that they're mutual, equitable, and forward-thinking. And ultimately, it's a call to action, a moment to ask ourselves, what kind of community do we want to be? Do we want to be a place where world-class arts thrive and where access to Broadway and local culture is a given, not just a luxury? We don't see this as a time for business as usual. It just simply can't be in our eyes. The old model has reached its limit, and continuing to under-resource the PAC and ACPA will only hold all of us back. So these next slides outline some really important data that show where we are and where we need to be in terms of our budget and funding to move beyond the Band-Aid approach that we currently find ourselves in. I know this is a little small, but so the proposed increase to the management fee that we're putting forth is going from 1.58 million to 4 million. We know this is a heavy lift. It's not only reasonable, though, it is essential. It reflects a long overdue increase for the operation of a high-performing multi-venue arts facility and addresses a critical need to stabilize and modernize a vital community asset. Part of this increase will give us more financial resources to expand our repairs and maintenance program while we await a major capital campaign. And it will provide us needed support to expand staff and more expertise to support our infrastructure and equipment issues while we bring on additional development staff to increase contributed revenue, ultimately to achieve a right-sized overall operations budget and coordinate with the owner on a strategic multi-year capital improvement plan. The PAC has operated under an ongoing structural funding deficit that has left it unable to maintain basic industry standards in equipment, systems, and support. The current funding level is simply not adequate to sustain safe, efficient, and effective operations, let alone enable the organization, a nonprofit, to maximize that potential and act as a better manager and community partner. The result is a facility held together by patches and workarounds with outdated infrastructure and mounting deferred maintenance that hinders the PAC's ability to serve its mission and meet community needs. So the underinvestment undermines both public value and private potential. With adequate support, we can leverage our nonprofit capabilities to unlock increased philanthropic giving, attract more local and national partnerships, and build an earned revenue model that supports long-term sustainability. But doing so requires the owner's commitment to baseline operational and physical health. A management fee of $4 million represents a strategic and necessary investment, not just in operations, but in civic infrastructure, cultural vitality, and an economic impact that will preserve and strengthen this irreplaceable civic asset. So this chart tells a clear story. So the solid green line, which is in the middle there, kind of behind that wavy dotted line that looks like mountains, shows where the management fee should be today if it had simply kept pace with inflation since 1988. It starts at just over 1.17 million and grows steadily to 3.23 million in 2025. The red line, however, on the bottom, shows our actual management fee. And the gap between those two lines is the story of structural underinvestment. Year after year, ACPA has been asked to do more with less. Meanwhile, the blue line, the dashed line there, represents our total operating budget, which includes the management fee plus the revenue generated by our nonprofit, those two combined, and expenses. They're at the same level because we budget at a zero-based budget. So it shows steady growth, driven not by public funding increases, but by our innovation and stepping up. So in the early years, we presented our own commercial events, including Broadway, until approximately 1994. In 2005, you can see the little bump up. That's where we added center ticks to serve the region and drive revenue for the operation. In 2009, we partnered with West Coast Entertainment to bring The Lion King to Alaska. And from 2023 to 2025, our new partnership with Nederlander brought Hamilton, Come From Away, Six, Aladdin, Mean Girls, and Beetlejuice to our stages. The chart that we have here is not just about dollars. It's about the expanding public value that we've delivered and the widening gap between that value and the support required to sustain it. But if we want ACPA and the PAC to continue delivering world-class performances and local impact, the investment must finally match the expectation. This slide here gives us a full picture of where we are and where we need to go to stabilize and strengthen the PAC and ACPA. The solid green line above represents the national average budget for performing arts centers with multiple venues of similar scale and in similar sized communities. This is the industry standard for a venue and market of our size, which includes funded repairs and maintenance budget as part of operations. As in the previous slide, the red line near the bottom shows the actual municipal management fee that we earn over time, and it's flat and far below what's needed. The blue dashed line reflects our total operating budget, just like it did on this previous slide. Introducing a new and important factor is the purple line, and that's the one that has the red box above it. This is a realistic and responsible budget target for us, 8.5 to 9.5 million. Adjusted down from the national profile for Alaska's unique challenges. We have a smaller market, higher logistics costs, which limits what we can bring, and limited earned revenue capacity. So it's not the national standard, but it is a practical one. Finally, the yellow line, which I know is really hard to see, it's kind of mixed in with the blue dotted line there, represents our requested management fee increase starting in FY26. Combined with the 2 to 2.5 million in ACPA generated revenue that we anticipate for that year, this plan includes a long overdue adjustment to reflect CPI annually and allows us to hire the development and operational staff needed to grow both earned and contributed revenue to achieve our target operating budget of 8.5 to 9.5 million over the next few years. This is a sustainable shared path forward, one where the public investment is balanced by nonprofit performance, but one that requires correcting the chronic underfunding that is holding the facility and the community it serves back. The proposed $4 million management fee allows ACPA to establish a more proactive and sustainable annual repair and maintenance budget, addressing issues before they become even larger emergencies and reducing operational disruptions. However, it is important to note that this is not a capital replacement budget. While it improves day-to-day responsiveness and reduces reliance on deferred fixes, the management fee does not cover major infrastructure replacements, system upgrades, or long-term modernization needs. Those still require a separate, dedicated capital investment strategy led by the facility owner and partnered with its nonprofit operator. The tools and systems we use are decades old. Our HVAC, electrical, rigging, and life safety systems are outdated or failing, some of them dating back to original equipment when we opened. Equipment rentals and emergency workarounds are no longer sustainable. In many cases, we are operating on borrowed time. And as we've stretched every operating dollar to serve the public, we've fallen further behind on the capital side, creating a backlog of deferred maintenance and modernization needs that now total tens of millions of dollars. So what you're seeing here is a kind of preliminary rough order of magnitude for the critical remedial work needed to address known deficiencies in the facility, work that can't be delayed any longer. We will present a full overview and cost estimates on August 4th to our board and the administration. This isn't cosmetic work. It's not the fun work. This is foundational. We're talking about HVAC systems, outdated lighting, seismic vulnerabilities, deteriorating doors, insulation, and core life safety systems like fire alarms and emergency power. The plan will also include removal of obsolete mechanical systems and recognizes that recent and growing issues like ongoing water infiltration and a pending ADA study need to be added. In total, this slide highlights the scale of what's required to keep the building safe, accessible, and operable. Without the investment, we risk system failures that could lead to disruption or even closure of critical performance and public use spaces. This isn't just a facilities issue. We see it as a mission issue. Without investment in the physical structure, we can't fulfill our nonprofit potential, attract future programming, or make good on the public's expectations. So now we turn to a second part of the conversation, the long-term capital investment strategy that's needed to ensure this building can serve the next generation as powerfully as it has served the last. But before we go, I'll just point out what the pictures you see there. The top left is our emergency generator. While it is still operable, it is on the edge. Lighting around the facility, inside and outside, is still incandescent, and the ballasts are failing, and the internal electrical work needs to be completely overhauled. And then outside too, you just see the wear and tear on the building, the conditions of the columns, the lights themselves, the Staller rings, also still incandescent. Just replacing them with LED oftentimes doesn't totally work because the fixtures themselves don't accept necessarily the types of bulbs that you need. When I first started at the PAC in my first stint in 2005, the story then was that it cost about $52 an hour when we turned those lights on. And by practice, we turn them on every time there's something in the building. So I don't know what $52 then would be now with the increase in utilities, but it's not cheap to run. And I do know that Eric Staller, who designed those rings, would be more than happy to give us a new design. We've talked to him before. He's in San Francisco now. But anyway, just fun little side note. We can go to the next slide. Some other things that we're seeing here is the incredible challenge we have with water in the building. Whether it is condensation caused or now we are dealing with massive groundwater issues. On the right-hand side, there is the piston to the freight elevator, and we have water that has infiltrated the piston shaft. And the Muni is aware of this, and we've been trying different mitigations and plans. And yes, we've been told that we're trying to solve a problem that hasn't happened yet, and that's exactly right. We definitely don't want that elevator to go down. It's already gone down multiple times over the last couple of seasons. I'll just share a story of during Hamilton, it went down during loadout, which means we had airplanes waiting, and that was a problem. We had to bring in an emergency contractor who literally went on top of the elevator and hand operated it to get Hamilton out of the building on time. Not ideal. You can see above the Discovery Theater, we have tarps to catch water because we can't deal with anything in the winter. It's all coming from the roof, and different joints and problems that exist with the condensation, expansion, and so that I have all the proper terminology, I'm sure. We can go to the next slide. You can see some of the original designs are very challenging for us. That Italian tile on the blue down there is impossible to find. So we have to do what we can with local sourced materials. And sometimes we have to go lengths of time without. Things like that are problematic. You can see the ballast issue that caused a fire in one of the internal columns a couple of years ago. We've since, we're plugging that. We're not putting a light back in because it doesn't have the proper infrastructure for modern lights, and you can't find the old parts, even though my team is amazing at finding things on eBay. The bottom left is a chiller element that is defunct and will be taken out of the building. And then we are very excited that in about in a couple more weeks, that one next to it is the fire panel. It's the original fire panel to the building, and that is about to be modernized. But our freight elevator, unfortunately, is not going to be updated until next summer. The Muni's been trying very hard to fast track that, but just with the processes that are in place, it's going to take us, and our season timing, we can't shut down our season to fix a freight elevator. We're going to have to wait until next season, and I'll talk about mitigation around that in a minute. And while our building was constructed before the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed, we don't feel that's an excuse for where we are today. We're woefully behind on accessibility, and our community definitely feels it. Patrons with mobility challenges still can't travel between lobbies without either going outside in the elements or being escorted backstage through what's known as the celebrity hallway. There are no direct accessible interior connections between key public spaces. There's no dedicated safe passenger drop-off zone that doesn't force you to cross the street. And even basic features like ramps, automatic doors, and accessible restrooms are limited or outdated. This year, we're working to secure funding for adding on to the facility assessment and ADA study to fully understand the scope of improvements needed. We're hoping to have that completed in September, but we already know that our facility does not meet modern expectations for inclusion, and especially not for dignity. Accessibility is not just a legal requirement, it's a reflection of our values. If we say that this space is for everyone, then we must work for everyone. Now is the time to invest in a future where every Alaskan can experience the arts without barriers. So the core technical systems that make live performances possible in the building are also well beyond their expected lifespans. Our rigging system, that's the ropes that you see, that's part of it on the right-hand side there. They are what control scenery coming in and out above the stages. They fly lighting equipment and sound equipment, scenery to curtains. It's outdated, it's posing safety risks, and it's limiting our flexibility. Sometimes we have to cut elements from shows due to our outdated theatrical elements, and that did happen during one of our Broadways. The lighting infrastructure is still largely incandescent, providing uneven coverage and failing to meet modern code for backstage and aisle lighting. Audio and video systems are underpowered and outdated, impacting sound quality, projection capability, and ultimately the kinds of productions that we're able to host. And backstage areas, which we consider the engine room of any performance, suffer from failing equipment, limited storage, poor accessibility, and compliance issues. So investing in modernization will unlock immediate and long-term value. We'll be able to lower utility and maintenance costs. We will improve safety and code compliance. We'll be able to enhance production quality and attract more tours and presenters. We'll be able to provide more value to our resident companies and local users, and we will become more efficient in our operations and provide better working conditions for our staff and crews. To fulfill our potential, these investments, we don't see them as optional. They really are foundational. So on this slide, you can see some examples of our outdated power systems and comms systems. The lighting fixtures that you see on the lower left there are original to the building. When we occupied the facility, it was not completed. And the nonprofit was the lead of raising the funds to finish things like the Discovery Theater and the Voth Hall. That kind of, what do you call it? Work in the middle there. Scaffolding, geez. That scaffolding work there is actually the Discovery Pit. It should be an automated system, but it was not finished. And we haven't had the funding to finish that. And then on the right-hand side there, those are the catwalks with some workarounds for hanging of sound equipment. We can go to the next here. The other challenge we have is all this seating in the theaters are original to the building. And as people sit in chairs and move around, the wear and tear on the floor is immense, especially in certain areas. And we are on concrete for a lot of the building. So what happens is the wear and tear in those holes, you can't go back into them. And so, and seats are connected, right? So if you fix one, it still has problems on the ends. So our team comes up with different solutions, including those kind of metal pieces that you see there. They're not pretty, but they're functional. The other issue is house lighting is a very interesting design, I'll say. It's pretty much inaccessible up above the house without building in a whole rigging system for crew to be safe. And we had built, prior to me, had built a catwalk up there that was deemed not safe, so that had to get shut down. So we can't get to some of the house lights, and you can see the inconsistencies in the theater in those dark spots throughout, and not just in the Atwood, but throughout in different spaces. Here you'll see just lots of spaces not updated. We also have to be creative and turn coat check spaces into call centers because there is not adequate office space for staff. So now we have an unsecure coat check underneath the stairs, Harry Potter style, on the discovery side of the building. Dressing rooms are very outdated. We've done what we can with LED light replacement also to manage the heat in those spaces, but there's a long way to go. And that's a green room. That's where artists convene if they're not in their dressing room, and there's just a lot of updating needs. Part of the mitigation of the elevator with the current with the experience over the last couple of years of breakdowns and now the water issue that we're uncertain how it's going to impact its operation. We're having to move things out of the lower belly of the building onto street level to ensure that there are no interruptions for our clients. That means that we're having to put storage underneath public stair areas and pipe and drape it. It is not ideal, but it's how we can ensure that if that elevator goes down, the things that can't be carried up and down stairs are accessible. So this slide shows what's in the capital reserve. It's important to be clear about what that number really means. Outside of the 1.9 million that's already designated for the fire alarm and elevator phase 1 upgrades, the bulk of the reserve was built up by ACPA, and it was intended honestly as more of an emergency safety net. It's not a solution for systemic capital needs. The reserve isn't close to what it needs to be, and we as the nonprofit operator don't have the means to generate the type of funds through an annual surplus to populate that fund. So we don't really see this element as a capital plan. Even when emergencies arise, the process to access these funds is very slow and cumbersome and subject to multiple layers of approval. It's often delaying critical repairs and compounding risks. The length of time it's taken to process the freight elevator and fire panel project is a perfect example. Even with the hard work and diligence of the staff at the Muni, it will be 2.5 years since we received funding for the elevator, which was already an urgent need to be modernized. We have been diligent and responsible in setting money aside. However, it is important to understand that past surpluses were results of being short-staffed and included contributed revenue in the surplus calculation. Our historic budget structure, including not being allowed to budget for an operating reserve, combined with overall support levels for our current management fee level not being sustainable. It's the current capital reserve model that we need to really look at. It's not designed to support long-term facility stewardship by way of capital improvements needed at the scale required for safe operations. If we're going to protect and preserve this building, we need a dedicated strategic capital investment plan and not just a rainy day fund. So next and last, one of our last slides here. As we reflect now on the full scope of today's presentation, I know it's been a lot of information, and I hope that it doesn't feel like just doom and gloom. We want to be transparent and share information as your operator about the state of things and how we want to come to the table to work together. We do see a clear through line emerging. We've long operated with resolve and resourcefulness. Some of us even call it passion, even under structural limitations, stagnant funding, and competing stakeholder interests. We've acknowledged the extraordinary community value that this facility generates, and from our resident companies and user groups to Broadway Alaska and our many community-focused programs, we've identified the barriers that have hindered long-term sustainability. We've shared the historic context of our management fee and our Broadway program. We've introduced a preliminary overview of the building's capital needs and outlined a critical recalibration to reimagine, reinvest, and rebuild a model that matches our market mission and our facility realities. Through it all, we believe the case is clear. Continued stagnation and relying on passion is not a strategy. This is a moment for alignment and collective action. And again, we do recognize all of the competing needs that we have right now. But with renewed management agreement and fee, a targeted and consistent owner investment, and a focused fundraising strategy, we can set the stage not just for Broadway's return, but the PAC's future as a more inclusive and better resourced civic and cultural home. And with that, we turn to our next steps, where we chart the immediate actions and decision points needed to move from pause to progress. So we have August 4th, the presentation of our initial assessments to our board and the municipality. And then we're going to share that information with our resident companies later that week. By mid-August, we're looking to have an updated and approved management agreement and fee modernization so that we can bring that to our board on August 28th with a matching budget to approve, and then give to the municipality by September 1st for the overall muni budget process. On September 20th, we are holding a fundraiser. Trend Alaska is going to be hosted at our facility, and all of the proceeds, we are the sole beneficiary, and that will help set us up for our capital campaign kind of launch and get us set up for the additional expenses we have for ADA assessment, community assessment, and then just setting us up for hopefully hiring some additional staff in the development field especially. We're hoping that by the end of the year, we can confirm the Muni's commitment for capital investment strategies, both short and long term, that we can have an assessment of our community around campaign readiness for creating a multi-year, multi-million-dollar funding campaign, and that we can have a recommendation for that campaign structure and framework by December. And on the next slide, those of you that don't have tickets yet, we have a code there for you. You can go get one now. So with that, I know that was a lot of information, and I thank you for those of you that stayed and were able to listen to the entire thing. And I'm hopeful that more assembly members will be able to go through the information. And I'm here to answer any questions along with members from my board.
All right, thank you very much for this information. I'll just note that we don't officially endorse anything like fundraisers as the assembly, so I will just note that the information is there if anybody wants. So are there questions from members? I've got a couple, so I'll start there. First is, well, actually, you covered one of them, the status of the elevator. I know that was, some members are new, but I know that was a big topic of discussion at least for a couple of years. I guess my question is really around, you mentioned industry standards, compliance, we have our own building code, for example. I know there's other codes. And I know when I did a tour with you, we talked a little bit about kind of what the contractual obligations are for, out-of-state companies coming up. So I just wonder if you could talk a little bit more about the requirements that are there beyond our own local codes. And then where, I think you've pointed out some of them, but kind of where we're falling short or where we're not able to actually enter those agreements.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think on the theatrical side of things, definitely if those entities are not able to bring their own equipment up and we're not able to source it locally outside of the PAC, then we do lose out on opportunities. Right now we're trying to understand if a major rock event can happen next summer, and the big hurdle right now is equipment. So, I mean, I think that's one big aspect of it, along with our fly and rigging system, and that really needs to be completely. I mean, we're doing a lot in the Atwood this summer, thanks to support from our reserve account that the assembly approved. Thank you. It's making it safer, and we hopefully will not run into an issue again where we have to pull 8 scenes from a Broadway show because our system can't support it. Luckily, they still do the show. But yeah, I would say equipment and the rigging and fly system are probably currently our biggest challenges when evaluating opportunities from the lower 48.
Okay, I hear member Baldwin Day. Go ahead.
Yeah, if we could return to, I apologize, I don't know the slide number. It's the ACP as a multi-venue facility slide that shows the green line, the purple line, the yellow line. If we could flip back there. I'm curious what the dotted green line is in the middle.
Oh, that is the dotted green line. What is the dotted green line? Hang on a second. I can't see that far. I got to look at my notes. I think that is our kind of the budget goal for the 4 million, right? Or no, I'm sorry.
I guess I can read it from here. It says Green Line average budget nationally for multi-venue facilities.
That's the solid
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry.
Hang on a second. I got to look at what side I'm on.
No worries.
One moment.
And if you need to get back to me, that's
I'll have
fine.
to get back to you.
I was just
Yeah,
curious
I might
what
have left
the,
that one out.
what the dotted green line was. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I had a separately.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know it now. So the yellow line is our management fee that we're looking to, and then that is the additional. That brings us up to the total that we generate as the nonprofit. Eventually, over the next few years, our goal is to get to that 8.5 to 9.5 million. So that also is with adjusted CPI on our management fee, but also us being able to generate more with improvements to the facility. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I think my other question, you mentioned the possibility of pursuing other sorts of partnerships, philanthropic and otherwise. And I was curious if there are local philanthropic entities or state or national or the entities that would be co-investors if the facility owner was more bought in.
Yeah, that's often the first question that we get when we are seeking philanthropic support, especially from the foundation or corporate level, like those bigger dollars. Yeah, so we have been told come back, but until we have ability to show that, we're challenged to get any kind of yeses. And I would also say, I know one question might come up like, well, why now? How come we haven't heard about this before? And I would just say, we work really closely with the team over the Muni. I know that they submit annually requests for whether it's state capital funding or evaluate for bonds. And we've just not been successful getting on those lists, but I know it's not for lack of trying from our team or our counterparts at the Muni. We just have to come up with a stronger strategy and do more storytelling to be able to share that and make the case of what our needs are and why it's important. Thank you.
I have another kind of two questions that spurred on the topic of state and federal. I know that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
We know the state is revenue challenged. So my specific question is, I know at the federal level, there's been a lot of discussion and talk and impacts to Alaska about federal funding and specifically National Endowment for the Arts. So I'm curious, that's my first question. Does the PAC receive NEA funding, or were you guys affected by that?
So historically, we've been very mindful around that type of fundraising for a couple of reasons. Historically, we've been under the pressure of not competing with our resident companies. However, that time has changed. I mean, we have to be able to be out there pursuing. That's the beauty of a nonprofit public-private partnership. So we in particular, we haven't had any funding like that in the past, maybe a program here and there. When we used to have our teacher education program, that was funded through the Kennedy Center. But it's been a long time since that program was active. But there's space there for us to grow that. And really, until COVID, we hadn't had a lot of federal funding.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
the pro and con of
Yeah.
where we are right now.
Yeah.
The other question is, I think you mentioned some stats from performances. I think it was for Hamilton, like how many different folks attended that. I'm curious in general, maybe you don't track this, but I don't know if Center Tix data or something like that would have some idea of how many people outside Anchorage utilize the PAC. And I imagine that's something you've looked at too, because that can often
Definitely.
help tell the story. So I'm
Yeah.
curious if you have a general sense of that.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you an example from the Broadway program in particular, but we saw attendance from over 91 cities across our state come in to see those shows. So yeah, it creates a wave and an impact, and that's a big reason why. And Broadway, we joke sometimes about it being the gateway drug. It gets a lot of people in. Hamilton, it was somewhere between 15 and 20% of that audience had never been to the PAC before. And so then it's our job as not only the operator of the facility, but with our other partners to introduce them to all the other things that happen in the building. And so now we have a new audience that's primed to do more.
Yeah, great point. And another example that comes to mind, maybe the reverse is all of the folks who got to experience the Hadestown,
Yeah.
coming from the West High stage to the bigger stage in town. I think that I heard a lot of feedback that's in my district, but also just folks who either were disappointed they couldn't go or very excited to see their colleagues up on the stage there.
I mean, and to be able to have that kind of opportunity to welcome those kids onto that stage, I mean, it was life-changing, not just for them, it was for us too. And actually one of our longest standing stagehands said that it was the most amazing experience of his entire career. And he's been doing this for over 30 years. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Any other questions from members? Not seeing any. I know we're a thin crowd right now. And it's the end of the afternoon, but so I'll just see if there's any closing comments from you, and then after that we can adjourn.
No, I mean, I just want to again express gratitude for letting us be here today, for my team for being here, for all the support. We know that this is, we have some short-term needs, but and we just want to work together on a long-term plan to ensure that this gift that we've been given of this amazing facility can continue for years to come.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for being here, including those in the audience. So I think with that we'll end. I will just make one quick scheduling note to the four of us that are still here, which is we have one additional work session, unusual because it's on a Monday. I know often members are working or not available, and that is it's the topic of congregate shelter contracts, which is on our agenda for Tuesday. So given the timing, we honor the administration's request to do that. So that will be, I believe, at 2 p.m. in this room on Monday, also available online. And otherwise, I will see you all at our meeting on Tuesday. So have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're adjourned.